react to that?
When I talk of the North, I'm talking about the oligarchic North. First and foremost, I needed to have established this. The Middle Belt region, it's a conglomeration of independent ethnic nationalities that are independent of the rulership of the Sokoto Caliphate or the Sultanate of Borno when the British came in 1900. So when I'm talking of a Middle Belt, I'm talking of Southern Kebbi, I'm talking about Southern Borno, I'm talking about Southern Yobe, talking about Southern Bauchi, talking about Southern Kaduna, talking about Gombe, I'm talking about Plateau, I'm talking about Benue, I'm talking about Taraba, I'm talking about Nasarawa, I'm talking about the FCT, I'm talking about Kogi, I'm talking about Kwara, I'm talking about Niger. Now, these are the states that make up the Middle Belt. So when I'm talking about the North, I'm talking about the oligarchic North. So the oligarchic North I'm referring to is composed of two major proponents. That's the Sultanate of Borno and the Sokoto Caliphate, which is principally or primarily made up of the Fulani and the Kanuri. Now, I want you to understand that when we talk of the North coming to the table for negotiation using violence, I am not a prophet of doom, but in the build-up to the 2027 election, you're going to see more of these attacks, and they are going to focus more in the Middle Belt. I'm not a prophet of doom, but it's something I know.
And this is something that you're not the only one who has expressed.
And government would always look away.
We've had several guests on this show. Yeah. Last week, I believe we had Mr. Onekachi Adekoya, who was very keen on the fact that the bulk of the blame does not stop at the foot of the president. That we're all very quick to shout, President, President, he's the chief security officer, but asking what has the governors, or what have the governors of these states done to secure their people. We see other states where they put together some security apparatus to ensure that, yes, it's not the official one, but they can look after. We've seen Ebubedike, we've seen Amotekun, and so the question is, do the governors have a role to play in all of this, or can we entirely just have to rest everything at the foot of the president? What role do the governors have to play in this?
They have a very, very strategic role and a fundamental role that has actually even been entrusted on them by the Constitution. As the governor of a state, you're the chief security officer of that state, and that's why you're giving security votes. And the security vote is supposed to go into what? Assisting the security apparatus to what? Build a security architecture that is formidable to at least, first and foremost, even gather intelligence and then be proactive rather than reactive to all the madness we see. However, it still boils down to the political maneuvering and the configuration of the state. For instance, while we're bearing over 200 of our citizens on the plateau, from Bokos to Bassa, we're now shocked with government coming to talk of investigating the poisoning of 30 cows. I believe you've read all of those commentaries. Now, how does the life of 30 cows equals or even supersedes that of 200 lives? Have we ever heard, even in Benue State, sorry to say this, because we have to be unapologetic about the truth. Because this country has been built on a lot of lies, and in fact is this, those lies have expired. The governor of Benue State is even to a large extent trying to, effumize and reduce the magnitude of the tragedy that has been unleashed on innocent people in Benue State. Trying to make it look like it's a skirmishes, some little disagreement between farmers and herders. Meanwhile, this is genocide, even reducing the numbers deliberately. So the point is this: when governors do not rise to the occasion and face it with the boldness that it requires, then something is wrong. And one thing I want you to understand is this: the domination and the overbearing influence of the northern oligarchy on even governors within the Middle Belt, to a large extent, undermines their capacity to face the lethal threat that these armless and defenseless citizens of their states are going through. Because the thing is this: how will I, ordinarily as a governor, be burying 400 people. This week I buried 200, the next week I bury 100. And yet I would be talking about the fact that criminality has no ethnicity.
But it's been happening for years, number of years. Now, if you could paint a picture of what needs to stop the senseless killings and this cycle of violence, what will it take and what type of picture would you paint for us?
Number one, Nigeria as a nation has almost become more of a contraption where leaders have never embarked on a march to really make this a nation. A nation is a conglomeration of people who are bound by a common interest and a shared destiny. So whatever they do, either in their public or private lives, is tilted towards the actualization or arriving that destination. For instance, look at America. What is the ethic of the American society? Liberty. For instance, liberty, freedom, all these encapsulate the ethos of the American society. Everybody wants to be free. Everybody wants to be able to pursue happiness. Everybody wants to what? Be able to have, I mean, just like Barack Obama could, from Kenya, be having an African ancestry, get to be president of the United States. That is a nation that is founded on liberty, on freedom, on equality, on justice and equity. However, do we have any common ethic that unites us as a nation? And the thing is this, as long as this nation, as long as this country...
I want you to get to my...
I am getting there right now. As long as we continue just as
we're doing now?
No. The point is not just as we're doing now, because one, we just actually marched together. We didn't decide
describe Nigeria
as a major geographical expression. Yeah. Even Ahmadu Bello described it as a mistake of 1914, because as far as is concerned, the amalgamation dislocated the North from its past, proud Islamic past. And beyond this, I want you to understand that certain foundational fault lines that we hardly would want to engage because of political correctness, I'm still answering your question, is the fact that the Emirate system, which gave the British the bushel with which to house indirect rule, was actually nurtured to be the vehicle that will drive Nigeria upon achieving independence in 1960. So the point is this, as far as Nigeria is concerned, we are not a nation that has a common destiny. So the point is this, if we're a nation that has a common destiny, you, a Yoruba man in the southwest, would be concerned about anything that happens to any Nigerian, not minding the creed.
I mean, a lot of Nigerians.
Not minding the creed, the religion, whether the person is black, he's white, no matter how he looks like. But the point is this: when anything happens in the southeast, and I say, oh, it's the Igbos, let them deal with it. Anything happens in the west, oh, it's the Yorubas, let them deal with it. Anything happens in the middle belt, it's their own problem, let them deal with it.
Unfortunately, the last elections did show how very divided we are on ethnic lines. Dr. Stanley Kawam, thank you very much for your time.